It was 3:17 a.m. when the first whisper slithered into my ear. Not a voice exactly, more like the rustle of dead leaves scraping against a window pane in a storm you can't see. I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, the kind that mocks you when sleep refuses to come. My name is Alex, and I'd always been a light sleeper, the type who jolts at a creak in the floorboards. But this was different. The air in my bedroom thickened, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic like blood left to congeal. I sat up, heart hammering against my ribs, and that's when I saw it. A shadow pooling at the foot of my bed. Not cast by the streetlight outside, no. The shadow moved on its own, uncoiling like smoke from a forgotten cigarette. It stretched toward me, fingers of darkness probing the edges of my sheets. I froze, breath caught in my throat, willing it to be a trick of exhaustion. But then it spoke, or hummed, a low vibration that burrowed into my skull. Stay awake, or join us. I bolted upright, slamming on the lamp. The room flooded with yellow light, empty as always. Just my cluttered nightstand, the half-read novel about forgotten gods, and the digital clock ticking indifferently. Sweat soaked my t-shirt. I laughed it off, stress from the dead-end job, the breakup that still stung like a fresh cut. But deep down I knew. That night marked the fracture, the line between waking and whatever lurks beyond it. By dawn, I was scrolling forums, desperate for answers. Sleep anomalies, shadow people, the watcher in the witching hour. Stories poured in. A nurse in Chicago who saw her deceased patient's face in her mirror at midnight. A trucker in Texas who swore his rig's headlights revealed figures marching parallel on empty roads. All of them ended the same. And now, I can't close my eyes without seeing them. That was 3 months ago. Tonight, as I type this, fingers trembling over the keyboard, the whispers have evolved. They're clearer now, naming names. Mine. Yours maybe, if you're reading this in the dark. They've shown me glimpses, fractured dreams where gravity inverts, where loved ones wear masks of flayed skin, beckoning you closer. And the worst part? The pull. That insidious tug toward surrender, toward letting the shadows in. If you're still here, heart racing like mine was that first night, listen. This isn't just a story. It's a warning etched in the silence between heartbeats. Once you hear the hum, once you feel the chill that seeps through locked doors, sleep becomes a battlefield. And the enemy, it's already inside. Have you ever wondered what happens when the veil between your conscious mind and the abyss thins just enough for something ancient to slip through? Picture this. A world where every night isn't a reset button but a doorway, creaking open wider with each restless toss. I'm Alex, your reluctant guide through this unraveling nightmare. And if the hook I just dropped has your pulse quickening, stick around. Because what I'm about to share isn't fiction spun from idle imagination. It's pieced together from fragments of my life, from the emails flooding my inbox, from the voices that echo in the dead of night across continents. It started innocently enough, or so I told myself. I was crashing at my aunt's old Victorian in the foggy outskirts of Portland, Oregon, a sprawling beast of a house with warped floorboards that groaned like they held secrets older than the Oregon Trail. Aunt Eliza had passed 6 months prior, leaving it to me and her will along with a cryptic note. The hourglass turns both ways. Guard your slumber. I dismissed it as her eccentric ramblings. She was always the type to collect dusty tomes on folklore and hang dream catchers woven with raven feathers. But on my first night, as rain lashed the eaves like accusatory fingers, the dreams began. Not dreams, precisely, more like invasions. I'd drift off to the patter of droplets only to find myself in a vast, starless void. No body, just awareness, suspended in ink-black nothing. Then the shapes would emerge, humanoid silhouettes with elongated limbs, their forms flickering like bad reception on an old TV. They'd circle me, murmuring in a language that twisted my gut, syllables that tasted like ash on my tongue. I'd wake gasping, sheets tangled around me like restraints. Convinced I'd been screaming, desperate for normalcy, I dove into research. Libraries, late-night Google rabbit holes, even a shady occult shop downtown where the proprietor, a woman with eyes like polished obsidian, slid a leather-bound journal across the counter. The Somnari Codex, she called it. Whispers from the threshold. Read at your peril. Its pages, yellowed and brittle, detailed an entity known only as the Sleeper's Echo, a remnant of forgotten rituals, a parasite that feeds on the fragile boundary of rest. It doesn't kill outright. Oh no, that's too merciful. It rewires you, makes every blink a risk, every yawn a surrender. Sleepless nights blurred into days of jittery paranoia. I'd catch glimpses in reflections, my own face, but with eyes too wide, too hollow. Friends noticed, pulled away when I'd ramble about the shadows tailing me home from the corner store. One, my old college buddy Mark, humored me with a sleep study referral. Science, man, not spooks. The clinic was sterile, all beeping monitors and starched sheets. They wired me up, dimmed the lights, and left me to relax. That's when it hit hardest. In the monitored dark, the hum returned, amplified. The machine spiked as if registering a seizure, but I was paralyzed. Not medically, but by an iron grip from within. The shadows coalesced into a figure this time. Tall, emaciated, with skin like cracked porcelain, veined in blue. It leaned close, breath cold as grave dirt, and whispered my aunt's name. She invited us. Now you pay the toll. Visions assaulted me. Flashes of Eliza in her final days, chanting over a circle of salt and candle stubs, bargaining for more time. For what? Longevity? Forbidden knowledge? The echo had granted it, but at the cost of her sanity, her sleep eroded until she clawed at her own eyelids in broad daylight. I tore free at dawn, ripping off the electrodes, vowing to burn the journal. But it was gone from my bag, and worse, the whispers followed me home, infiltrating car radios with static-laced pleas, turning podcast episodes into garbled confessions from strangers who'd brushed the threshold. If this is resonating, if your own nights feel heavier, more watchful, know you're not alone. The echo preys on isolation, but sharing, that's our weapon. So hit pause if you need to, but before you do, drop a comment below. Which city are you watching this from? Portland, New York, Tokyo? Let me know. Maybe your shadows are kin to mine. And if you're new here, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell. We unravel these mysteries together, one sleepless night at a time. Your stories fuel the fight. Now let's descend deeper. Because the first chapter of my unraveling, it begins where the house's walls started breathing. The rain hadn't let up since I'd claimed the house as mine, turning the garden into a sodden graveyard of wilted roses and unearthed roots that looked too much like grasping hands. I paced the foyer that first full day, the air thick with mildew and the faint, acrid tang of whatever incense Aunt Eliza had favored. Her things were everywhere. Porcelain dolls with glassy stairs lining the mantel, a grandfather clock that chimed 13 at the stroke of 12, and that damn journal, now tucked under my mattress like a guilty secret. I told myself I'd sell the place, flip it for quick cash, and bolt back to my apartment in the city, where sirens drowned out the silence. But curiosity, that treacherous serpent, coiled tighter. By evening, exhaustion clawed at me. I'd barely slept in transit, the greyhound's rumble mimicking the hum from my dreams. I collapsed onto the four-poster in the master suite, its canopy draped like funeral shrouds. The bed was a relic, carved oak headboard etched with symbols I couldn't place, spirals that seemed to shift when I blinked. Sleep came in fits, a shallow pool I waded through only to be yanked under. I dreamed of the void again, but this time it had texture, cold stone underfoot, the echo of dripping water from unseen caverns. The silhouettes weren't aimless wanderers. They formed a procession, filing past me toward a distant glow, their forms solidified in glimpses, one with antlers branching from a hooded skull, another whose limbs ended in hooks that scraped sparks on the ground. They didn't acknowledge me, but I felt their hunger, a psychic thirst that made my skin prickle. At the procession's end loomed a throne of twisted thorns, occupied by the porcelain figure from the clinic. It turned, slowly, revealing a face that was almost human, high cheekbones, lips parted in a perpetual sigh. But the eyes, God, the eyes, were pits swirling with captured stars, galaxies devoured whole. Witness, it intoned, voice a chorus of layered whispers, like wind through 1,000 cracked windows. The echo awakens in you. It extended a hand, palm up, and from the fissures in its skin poured visions. My aunt as a young woman, vibrant and fierce, performing a rite in this very house under a blood moon. She'd cut her palm, dripped crimson onto the floorboards, invoking the sleeper's echo for visions of the future. Stock tips, lost heirlooms, whispers of lovers' betrayals. It delivered at first. Wealth flowed. Suitors knocked. But the toll mounted. Dreams turned prophetic horrors. Plane crashes she'd narrowly avoided. Fires that claimed neighbors. The echo demanded more. Sleepless vigils. Offerings of personal effects left at the threshold of dawn. I recoiled in the dream. But the throne room floor tilted, sucking me forward. The figure's fingers brushed my forehead and fire lanced through my veins. I saw my own future splinter. Me, hollow-eyed, scrawling warnings on walls. Me, alone in a padded room, begging for the dark. Me, joining the procession, antlers sprouting from my brow. Choose, it hissed. Feed us or be fed upon. I woke thrashing, the canopy tangled around my neck like a noose. Sunlight slanted through grimy panes, revealing the room unchanged. Yet the headboard spirals now mimicked the dream throne's thorns, deeper grooves as if clawed in overnight. Heart-pounding, I stumbled downstairs, brew coffee with shaking hands. The kitchen radio crackled to life unbidden, static resolving into a talk show on anomalous sleep disorders. A caller from Seattle described shadows that tasted her name. I switched it off, but the words lingered. Desperate for distraction, I explored the attic. Dust motes danced in the single bulb's glow, illuminating crates of Eliza's arcana, tarot decks with cards depicting fractured clocks, vials of what smelled like liquid nightshade, and letters tied in faded ribbon. One, addressed to no one, read, "The echo lies in the bones of the house. It slumbers until called, then never truly rests. I called too often. Forgive me, Alex." A chill unrelated to the draft snaked down my spine. How had she known I'd inherit this curse? That afternoon I met Mrs. Hargrove, the neighbor whose picket fence abutted the property line. She was a wiry septuagenarian with a perm like steel wool and eyes that darted like trapped birds. Eliza's boy, eh? Come for the inheritance? Over weak tea in her floral parlor, she spilled what the town whispered. Eliza's eccentricities weren't born of age, but accident. 20 years back, during a solar eclipse, she'd hosted a gathering. Artists, mystics, the curious. Wine flowed, chants rose, and by morning half the guests had fled, babbling of the watcher who steals breaths. Two never woke fully. They lived on in comas, eyes fluttering behind lids as if chasing perpetual nightmares. Eliza? She barricaded herself, but the house changed. Doors slammed on their own, mirrors fogged with handprints from the inside. "You're not safe here," Mrs. Hargrove warned, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. "Burn sage, salt the sills. Folk remedies, but they've kept me breathing." I nodded politely, but doubt festered. Science, not superstition. That night I rigged motion lights and a baby monitor, armed with Eliza's journal open to a warding incantation I half mumbled before bed. Sleep dragged me under like quicksand. The void awaited, but now it bled into the house. I wandered halls that stretched impossibly long, wallpaper peeling to reveal writhing murals of the procession. The porcelain figure lounged at the attic stairs, beckoning. "Deeper," it cooed. "See what she hid." Against my will I climbed, boards creaking under phantom weight. The throne was there, thorns alive and pulsing, and atop it sat not the figure, but me, future me, crowned in bone, eyes swirling voids, laughing as the procession knelt. A scream tore me awake. Not mine. The baby's monitor wailed, picking up cries that weren't human, guttural moans, like wind through a keyhole shaped like a mouth. The motion lights blazed, illuminating nothing, but on the headboard fresh scratches spelled a word. Invite. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. I packed a bag, keys in hand, but the front door stuck, seal unbroken yet unyielding. Panic clawed higher. That's when the first email arrived, from an unknown sender. "The echo knows your city. It travels with you." Attached, a photo of my apartment back in Portland, shadows pooling at my old bed's foot. I slumped against the door, the house's breath, warm, insistent on my neck. Running wouldn't sever this, but understanding, that might. The journal's next page beckoned, promising rituals to commune, to control. Foolish hope, perhaps. As twilight bled in, I lit candles, traced the symbols, and whispered the invocation. The air hummed approval. What rose wasn't the figure, but memories, not mine. Eliza's, floods of her nights. The echo granting boons, then twisting them. A vision of lost family wealth, leading to a buried cache in the garden. Real gold, dug up at noon, but tainted. Every coin spent brought misfortune. Lovers fleeing, jobs evaporating. She'd bargain harder, show me enemies' weaknesses. It did, in dreams where she'd eavesdrop on astral planes, sabotaging rivals. Power surged, but so did the toll. Sleepless weeks blurred, hallucinations stalked her days, shadows and crowds mimicking her gestures, mocking her. One memory hit like a gut punch. Eliza, pregnant once, long before I was born. Desperate for a healthy child, she'd beseeched the echo for protection. It granted visions of threats, a fall downstairs, a faulty car. She averted them, but the infant, born with eyes that never closed fully, tiny fists clenched against invisible foes. The child didn't survive the first night, the echo claiming its due in silence. Tears stung as the visions faded, leaving me hollow. The house settled around me, approving. I'd glimpsed the hook. The echo wasn't chaos, it was a mirror reflecting our greeds back amplified. Eliza's hubris had summoned it, but my inheritance, that was the chain binding me. Exhaustion pulled me under unbidden, the candles guttering low. In the void, the procession halted, parting for the porcelain one. It held a mirror, my face reflected but cracked, shards showing alternate lives. One where I burned the journal and fled, only for the shadows to consume my loved ones. Another where I embraced it, becoming the new oracle, wealthy and whispered about, yet eroding from within. Choose your thread, it murmured, the mirror's edge slicing my dream finger, blood welling black. I recoiled, waking to real pain, a shallow cut on my hand, the journal opened to a blank page now inked with my blood. Thread 1, denial. Days bled into a rhythm of dread. I'd venture out for supplies, the town eyeing me like Eliza's ghost. Groceries in hand, I'd feel watched, not paranoia, but tangible, like eyes boring from storm drains. Back home, the house rearranged subtly. A vase shifted inches, books opened to passages on binding spirits. Mrs. Hargrove visited once more, pressing a bundle of herbs. Rue and Rowan, burn it at the crossroads. Her voice cracked. I saw them too, after the gathering. They took my Henry, coma like the others, whispered his debts away, but the price. She trailed off, leaving the bundle. I burned at that dusk at the garden's edge where roots twisted like veins. Smoke curled skyward, carrying pleas I didn't voice. That night sleep fractured further. No void. Instead, the house itself dreamed me. Walls breathed, inhaling my exhales, exhaling doubts. I roamed corridors that looped, doors opening to Eliza's memories, her scrawling frantic letters to scholars, begging for banishment rights, her isolation as friends ghosted, fearing contagion. One door revealed the nursery, long sealed. A cradle rocked gently, though no wind stirred. Inside, a swaddled form stirred, cooing my name. I approached, heart leaden, and peeled back the cloth. Not a babe, a miniature porcelain doll. Eyes pits, smiling with too many teeth. It latched onto my finger, sucking like a leech, and visions poured. The echo's origin, not a demon, but a fracture in reality, born when ancient shamans pierced the dream veil to commune with ancestors. The rift never sealed. It widened with each invocation, spilling echoes, residuals of the dead, hungry for form. The doll's grip tightened, pulling me into its gaze. I saw the procession's source, countless souls, snared mid-transition, marching eternally for release. To free them, feed the rift fresh essence, vitality siphoned from the living. Eliza had resisted, starving it until it turned ravenous. I wrenched free, the doll crumbling to dust, but the cradle's rock echoed in my ears. Dawn found me in the nursery, real dust motes swirling like disappointed specters. The journal beside me now chronicled my nights in Eliza's script. Alex invites. The thread tightens. Paranoia peaked. I called Mark, voice cracking over the line. Come get me. It's real. He laughed. Nervous, placating, then sobered. Dude, you're scaring me. Sleep deprivation psychosis. I'll drive up. Relief warred with shame. That afternoon, as thunder rumbled, I awaited him pacing the porch. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, pooling at my feet like spilled oil. Mark arrived at twilight, truck crunching gravel. Hugging me tight, he scanned the house. Creepy as hell. Let's grab your stuff. Inside, he poked fun. Auntie's haunted Airbnb, until we reached the attic. The air up there hummed, oppressive. He froze at the throne-etched crate. What the... Before I could explain, the bulb shattered, plunging us into black. Whispers erupted, a cacophony naming us both. Mark, witness, feed. He yelped, fumbling for his phone's light. It illuminated scratches on the walls. Fresh. Welcome, thread 2. We bolted downstairs, but the front door, sealed again. Panic surged. Mark shouldered it, wood splintering under assault. Outside, rain lashed, but no shadows followed. In his truck, speeding toward Portland, he gripped the wheel, white-knuckled. What was that? Wind? Rats? I showed him the journal, the blood ink page. His face paled. Burn it. Tonight. At my old apartment, normalcy beckoned. Pizza, beers, bad TV. Sleep came easy, dreamless. But at 3:17 a.m., the hum returned. Faint, but insistent. Mark stirred beside me on the couch where he'd crashed. Alex? His voice was small. Eyes open but unseeing, he sat up. I saw them. In the attic. They showed me things. Dread pooled cold. The echo had hitched a ride. Not in the journal, but in us. Threads woven now, inseparable. Morning brought denial's hangover. Mark shook it off as nightmare bleed over. But his sketches that day, frantic on napkins, depicted the procession, antlers and hooks precise. We burned the journal in a park fire pit, flames devouring pages hungrily. Ash swirled, forming fleeting faces that leered before dissipating. Relief was fleeting. That night, in separate beds, we dreamed in tandem. Texts buzzed at dawn. The throne, its calling assembly. We met at a diner, hollow-eyed over eggs. We end this, Mark said. Research. Real help. Online forums led to Dr. Lena Voss, a parapsychologist in Seattle. Her site promised threshold interventions. We drove north, the highway a blur of evergreens that seemed to lean in, listening. Dr. Voss's office was a converted lighthouse, waves crashing below like applauding ghosts. Sharp-featured, with a no-nonsense bob and glasses perched like a scholar's armor, she listened without judgment. The sleeper's echo, she confirmed, pulling a file thicker than my forearm. Documented since Sumerian cuneiform, the whisperer who binds the veil. It's not malevolent per se, it's imbalance. Invocations create debt, the echo collects. She detailed cases, a 70s cult in Big Sur, mass comas after a dream-sharing ritual, a modern tech bro in Silicon Valley, coding AI from inspired visions, only to code his own suicide algorithm. The key? Sever the thread, but it requires the invoker's blood, yours by proxy, and a counter-right at the rift's anchor. The house? I asked. She nodded. Victorians like yours were built on ley lines, old energy veins. Eliza's gathering amplified it. She prescribed a kit. Obsidian dagger, lunar salts, a chant in Proto-Indo-European. Perform at eclipse peak. Invite, then banish. But beware, the echo fights dirty. It'll tempt with truths you crave. Back home, Mark crashing indefinitely, we prepared. Days of fortification, sigils on windows, white noise machines blasting ocean waves to drown the hum. Sleepless vigils strained us. Hallucinations crept in daylight. I'd glimpse Mark's shadow stretching too far, hooks at its edges. He'd wake me from dozes, swearing porcelain fingers brushed his brow. Eclipse night arrived, moon a bruised corona. We drove to the house, kid in tow. The porch light flickered welcome. Inside, the air thrummed, expectant. Candles lit the foyer circle, salts forming a pentagram. Dr. Voss's chant rolled off our tongues, clumsy but fervent. Blood pricked from my palm, dripping to stain the oak. The hum crescendoed to a roar. Shadows boiled from corners, the procession manifesting, dozens strong, circling the salt line. The porcelain figure materialized at the circle's heart, throne materializing beneath it, thorns real, dripping sap like ichor. Threads converge, it intoned, voice a symphony of the damned. Witnesses become weavers. Mark chanted louder, dagger trembling in his grip. But the figure smiled. My aunt's smile twisted. She bargained for you, Alex. Protection from the cradle. I granted it. Now repay. Visions assailed. Eliza's final plea, not for herself, but to shield her nephew from a foreseen accident. A car crash on icy roads, the one that orphaned me young. The echo had diverted it, but bound me in her stead. Rage and grief warred. I lunged, dagger plunging into the throne's heart. Thorns lashed, scoring my arms, but the figure howled, a sound like worlds cracking. The procession faltered, forms dissolving into smoke. You sever one, it gasped, porcelain fracturing, but threads multiply. Light erupted, blinding. When vision cleared, the circle smoked, salts scattered. The house sighed, settling. Mark slumped, unconscious. I dragged him out, dialing Voss en route to ER. It worked. I gasped into voicemail, but it spoke of multiples. He woke ranting of dreams. The echo retreating, not destroyed, but splintered. Shards embedding in the world, seeking new hosts. It's in the cities now, spreading. Weeks passed in fragile peace. Therapy, meds, Mark and I rebuilding. Jogs at dawn, comedy clubs to laugh away the dark. The house? Sold to a developer who bulldozed it, unearthing nothing but roots. Whispers faded to memory. Then, last night, 3:17 a.m., a new email from Seattle. Dr. Voss missing. Last words. The Shards call assembly. Attached. A photo of her lighthouse, shadows pooling at the door. And in the foreground, a familiar scratch on glass. Thread 3. But the true horror? As I stared, my reflection in the screen, eyes swirling just for a flicker. The echo isn't gone. It's evolved. And it's found its way into the very fabric of our shared nights, waiting for the next eclipse to pull us all under. What if the next thread isn't mine to sever, but yours? As the whispers grow louder in the cities, one question haunts. Who's inviting them in now? The email from Seattle burned a hole in my inbox, a digital scar that refused to fade no matter how many times I deleted and refreshed. Dr. Voss's disappearance hit like a delayed aftershock. The woman who'd armed us with rights and reason, now just another statistic in the missing persons ledger. News snippets trickled in over coffee that morning. Renowned parapsychologist vanishes from coastal home. Colleagues cite overwork. Overwork. Right. As if the echo respected HR forms. Mark, bleary from his own fragmented sleep, peered over my shoulder. Coincidence? His voice was rough, edged with the same dread I'd tasted for months. We drove to the coast that afternoon. The Pacific, a slate-gray mirror under overcast skies. The lighthouse loomed on its crag like a skeletal finger accusing the horizon. Windows dark as the voids we'd glimpsed. The door hung ajar, splintered at the hinges. Claw marks, wind. Inside, chaos, overturned furniture, books splayed like gutted fish, pages fluttering in the draft from a shattered pane. Voss's desk was the epicenter. Notes scrawled in haste. Diagrams of ley lines snaking from Portland to Seattle, intersecting at my old house's coordinates. And there, amid the frenzy, the obsidian dagger, its blade dulled as if it had tasted something unyielding. Mark pocketed it, jaw set. We finished what she started, but his hands shook as we sifted through files. Case after case mirrored ours. A family in Vancouver, comas after a dream circle, a lone hiker in the Cascades, found babbling of processions before vanishing into thin air. One file chilled deepest. Shard propagation. Voss theorized the echoes fracturing birthed fragments. Autonomous echoes, each latching onto a host's unresolved longing. Mine, legacy, the unspoken ache of Eliza's shadow over my life. Mark's, loyalty, the fear of losing another friend to madness. As dusk bled the sky crimson, the hum returned. Not invasive, but insidious. Weaving into the waves crash below. We barricaded for the night, sleeping in shifts on the spiral stairs, salt lines refreshed. My watch, 3:17 a.m. The air thickened, carrying brine and that metallic tang. Shadows slithered up the walls, not forming figures but patterns. Spirals echoing the headboard's etchings. Then, a whisper, not from the dark, but Voss's voice. Threads multiply. Find the weaver. I shook Mark awake. It's here, in her. We chanted the banishment. Dagger raised, but the shadows laughed, a ripple of porcelain chimes. No manifestation, just a note left on the desk in Voss's hand. The assembly convenes in the City of Lights. Thread 3. Illumination. Portland. Home. We burned what remained of her research on the beach. Pyre spitting sparks into the night. Driving south, radio static resolved into garbled broadcasts. News of mass insomnia outbreaks in urban centers. New York, London, even Tokyo. Reports of shadow sightings, dismissed as mass hysteria from a viral TikTok challenge. But we knew. The shards were spreading, urban veins pulsing with the echo's hunger. Back in the city, normalcy was a cruel facade. My apartment, once sanctuary, now hummed faintly, fridge coils mimicking the call. Mark moved in officially, our lives a bunker of wards and white noise. Days blurred into freelance gigs, me editing videos on unexplained phenomena for a niche channel, irony biting deep. Subscribers trickled in, comments a mix of skepticism and confession. This happened to me in Chicago, shadows at 3 a.m. We'd reply, probing for patterns, building an informal network. One lead stood out, a user, Eclipse Echo 87, claiming insider knowledge from Eliza's old circle. Meetup proposed, Midnight, Powell's City of Books, the world's largest independent bookstore, a labyrinth of shelves that felt too on the nose for omens. The night was crisp, fog rolling off the Willamette like ghostly exhalations. Powell's towered, its rare books section a warren of dust and forgotten lore. We waited in the occult aisle, spines whispering titles like The Veil's Anatomy and Nocturnal Pacts. Footsteps echoed, soft, deliberate. She emerged, mid-40s, sharp bob mirroring Voss's, but eyes bright with fervor, not fear. Jenna, she introduced, voice low. Last of Eliza's initiates. The gathering? I was there. Over smuggled coffee in a back alcove she spilled. The eclipse rite wasn't whimsy. It tapped a nexus point where ley lines converged under the house, a natural rift Eliza exploited for profit. Consultations, the Codex as her Bible. But the echo? Older than Sumer, Jenna claimed. A primordial imbalance from when humans first dreamed collectively, birthing a shadow realm jealous of our waking world. Shards formed when rifts overload. Eliza's invocation splintered it, sending fragments global via conductors. People like us, marked by blood or curiosity. You severed the anchor, Jenna said, tracing a map on a napkin. But the Weaver? That's the core shard seeking reunion. It's in Portland now, feeding on the city's underbelly. Homeless shelters where despair dreams deep. Clubs pulsing with synthetic nights that blur veils. Mark leaned in. How do we kill it? Her laugh was brittle. Echoes don't die. They echo. Bind it, starve it, offer a false thread, lure it to a dead nexus. She slid a pendant across. Rowan wood carved with anti-spirals. Wear this. And tonight, at the steel bridge, urban ley line. Midnight. I'll chant diversion. We parted uneasy. The bookstore's aisles stretching unnaturally as we left. Homeward, the hum intensified. Radio hijacked by static voices reciting our names. Sleep evaded. When it came, shared dreams. Jenna leading us to the bridge, but the procession waited, hooks glinting under sodium lights. Midnight found us on the bridge's span, Willamette churning below like inky blood. Jenna arrived robed in black, pendant glowing faintly. We formed a triangle, chanting Voss's words laced with Jenna's additions. Old English fragments invoking the silent watchers. The air warped, fog thickening to opacity. Shadows bled from the girders, forming a ring. Not the full procession, but scouts, antlered forms sniffing the air. The Weaver emerged from the murk. No porcelain giant, but a swarm. Shards coalescing into a humanoid haze, features shifting. Voss's glasses one moment, Eliza's smile the next. Threads entwine, it buzzed. 1,000 voices in harmony. Illumination demands sacrifice. Jenna hurled salts, the swarm recoiling with sizzles. Mark swung the dagger, carving arcs that dispersed wisps. I donned the pendant, its wood warming like fevered skin. Visions hit, the Weaver's hunger not for vitality but validation. Echoes of the ignored, the dreamless dead craving narrative. It tempted, weave with us, your channel, millions. Truths unveiled, sleep as God. The offer dangled, seductive. My videos had gained traction, comments pleading for more. Power. but Mark's shout grounded me. It's lying, like with Eliza. We closed the circle, chants peaking. The swarm lunged, shards piercing the salt barrier. Pain lanced my chest, cold as frostbite. Jenna screamed, hooks raking her arm. In the melee, I glimpsed the lure, a false thread, as she said, a fabricated longing, my desire for oblivion broadcast in the chant. The weaver latched, frenzied, absorbing the illusion. Its form stabilized, greedy, then destabilized, shards vibrating, repelled by the void promise. It shrieked, a sound that shattered nearby windows, fog exploding outward. The bridge trembled, lights flickering, then implosion. The swarm collapsing inward sucked into a pinprick of dark that winked out like a snuffed candle. Silence crashed. Jenna slumped, bleeding but breathing. Mark caught me as I fell, pendant smoldering. Dawn crept, gilding the river gold. We'd bound it, or a facet. One shard down, Jenna gasped, binding her wound. But the core, it's migrating. Whispers from Tokyo, mass blackouts at 3 a.m., dreams sinking citywide. We helped her to a cab, promises of follow-up hanging. Back home, exhaustion claimed us, dreamless for the first time in months. But the pendant, cooled on my nightstand, bore new etchings, faint spirals, and words in Eliza's hand. Core thread. 4. Reunion. Morning brought normalcy's tease, emails from subscribers, a collab offer from a podcaster. Mark sketched designs for protective amulets, turning trauma to talisman. Jenna texted coordinates, a nexus in the Rockies where shards reportedly congregated. Assembly's coming, we need allies. Allies. The word stuck. My channel views spiked, comments a chorus. Felt this in NYC, shadows in subways. I posted a call. Share your stories. We're mapping the echo. Responses flooded. A barista in LA seeing processions in steam. A coder in Berlin. Algorithms birthing code that dreamed back. One stood out. Eclipse Echo 87. Again, Jenna's handle? No, a new user. From the cradle. The weaver speaks through me. Attached. A nursery photo. Cradle rocking empty. Dread renewed. The core sought reunion, pulling threads from the past. Eliza's lost child, or something birthed in the rift. That night the hum returned. Not hungry, but harmonious, like a siren's song luring ships to reunion. Sleep pulled, and in the void, not procession but family. Eliza, Voss, the infant, arms open. Join, they chorused. Weave whole. I woke sweating, Mark's hand on my shoulder. Bad one? His eyes, though, swirling, just a flicker. The core wasn't migrating. It was calling us home, to the cradle of it all. And as the first snow dusted the windows, a knock echoed, not at the door but from within the walls. Something or someone wanting out. Snow fell in earnest by week's end, blanketing Portland in a hush that amplified every creak, every distant siren into portent. The knock from the walls hadn't repeated, but its echo lingered in my bones, a Morse code of impatience. Mark and I fortified, amulets distributed to our nascent network via mail, chants memorized like mantras. Jenna recovered in a Seattle safe house, her texts cryptic, shards clustering, Denver nexus hot, cores pulling strings, old blood calls. Old blood. The phrase gnawed. I dug into genealogy sites, cross-referencing Eliza's letters. Turns out our line traced to 19th century immigrants. Shamans, if Jenna's lore held, settling on rift veins across the Americas. Conductors by birth, she called it. My blood wasn't proxy, it was key, resonating with the echo like a tuning fork to shatter glass. The channel became our war room. Videos shifted from solo rants to collabs, interviews with survivors, maps overlaying Insomnia spikes with ley lines. Subscribers swelled, 10K then 50K, comments a lifeline. Berlin blackout synced my dreams to neighbors. Procession marched Hauptstrasse. We crowdsourced, piecing a global web. One lead chilled, a Tokyo user, Yume Keiga, uploading footage of Shibuya crossing at 3 a.m. Pedestrians frozen, shadows detaching to form antlered scouts, hooks scraping asphalt. Denver called like a fever dream. We flew out. The planes hum a mocking lullaby. The city sprawled under perpetual blue skies, but nights? Forums buzzed with sky shadows. Eclipses that weren't, blotting stars in geometric patterns. Our nexus, Red Rock's amphitheater, ancient stones humming with geomagnetic buzz. a natural amplifier. Jenna met us at a roadside motel, arm-scarred but spirit fierce. The core's here, feeding on the Earth's pulse. Her safe house allies, a Navajo storyteller named Kai, tattoos of protective Cocopelli snaking his arms, and Lila, a physicist from MIT, graphs plotting dream entanglement like quantum particles. Over diner pie, they briefed. Kai's tales echoed the echo. Skinwalkers of the Veil, Yenolushi twisted by white man's machines. Lila's data confirmed. Insomnia waves correlated with solar flares, rifts widening like wounds. The core shard? It's aggregating, absorbing miners to reform the weaver. Reunion means singularity, one entity, omnipresent in dreams. Plan: infiltrate the nexus at solstice midnight, when stones align with solstice stars. Use Kai's songs to soothe shards, Lila's disruptor, a jury-rigged EMP tuned to theta waves, to scatter the core. My role: blood anchor, dagger wielding closer. Mark: guardian, amulets charged. The drive to Red Rocks twisted through canyons, wind whispering through hoodoos like breathy invitations. The amphitheater gaped under moonless sky, monoliths sentinel silent. We hiked in, packs heavy with salts, herbs, the dagger pulsing warm. Kai led, rattle shaking, voice rising in guttural chants that vibrated the air. Lila's device whirred softly, screens flickering data. Midnight struck, stars wheeled. The hum erupted, not from shadows but stone itself vibrating underfoot. Cracks glowed faint blue, veins of light snaking upward. Shards poured forth, swarms from fissures coalescing into procession vanguard. Dozens, then hundreds, antlers clashing like ant symphony. Hooks scraped rock, sparks illuminating porcelain gleam in their cores. The core manifested atop the stage rock, a colossal haze. Threads of shadow weaving a form taller than the pillars. Face a mosaic of victims. Voss's stern brow, Eliza's knowing eyes, the infant's cherubic cheeks warped, grotesque. Limbs branched like lightning, ending in barbs that dripped ethereal dew, dream essence harvested. Reunion, it thundered, voice a global choir, Tokyo traffic, Berlin U-Bahn, Portland rain. Conductors return, weave the singular dream. Kai's rattle peaked, songs weaving counterharmony, notes that made shards hesitate, forms flickering like faulty holograms. Lila activated the disruptor, pulses hummed, shards convulsing, some dissolving into mist. Mark hurled amulets, sigils blooming light to repel the vanguard. I advanced, dagger aloft, blood welling from a fresh cut to slick the blade. The core lashed, a barb grazing my shoulder, injecting visions, alternate threads, lives unlived. Me as Oracle, channel exploding to millions, exposing government's veil piercings. Me fleeing to isolation, echo starved to dormancy. Me merged, god of nights, procession my court. Temptation surged, but Mark's yell, anchor holds, steadied. Kai's song swelled, invoking ancestors to bind. The core roared, barbs spearing earth, summoning more shards. Now from our network, faces glimpsed in comments materializing. The LA barista, hooks for hands, Yuma keg, antlers blooming from scalp. Lila's device overheated, sparks flying, but she recalibrated, pulse intensifying. Shards shattered, essence arcing back to the core like reverse tributaries. It bloated, unstable, threads fraying. You sever, it bellowed, but singularity births multiplicity. I plunged the dagger into its chest mosaic, blade sinking into yielding dark. Blood-black ichor sprayed, burning like acid, visions inverted. The core's birth, not shamanic folly but cosmic scar. A meteor's veil tear eons ago, birthing the rift. Reunion wasn't conquest, it was homeostasis. Shards seeking wholeness to seal the wound. The amphitheater quaked, stones groaning. Kai collapsed, rattle stilled. Lila shielded him, device exploding in a theta burst that lit the night electric. Mark tackled me clear as the core imploded, not collapsing but inverting, sucking shards inward in a vortex. The procession howled, forms unraveling thread by thread, faces dissolving into pleas. Release, dream eternal. Vortex peaked, a maw of stars devouring itself. Then snap, silence. Stones dimmed, cracks sealing like healed flesh. The core? A husk, Porcelain shell cracked on the stage, empty. Dawn gilded the rock's gold. Kai stirred, grinning through bloodied lip. Ancestors sang true. Lila nursed burns, device slag. Mark bandaged my shoulder, eyes clear, no swirls. Jenna, watching from the wings, nodded. Core bound, shards dormant, for now. We hiked out, air lighter, hum silenced. Back in Portland, Triumph soured slow. Channel hit 100K subs. Interviews with Kai and Lila went viral. Echo expose trending. Cities reported eased nights. Insomniac's sleeping sound, shadows receding. Our network celebrated. Toasts in virtual rooms, amulets as talismans. But 3:17 a.m. brought the fracture. Mark thrashed beside me, whispering in sleep. Multiplicity from one. I woke him. His eyes fluttered open. Normal. Yet the pendant on the nightstand? Spirals reversed, etching. Husk thread 5. Birth. Morning news. Tokyo aftershocks. New processions but evolved. Birthing from the bound core. Not echoes but progeny. Smaller, slyer, infiltrating tech. Apps that dream journal sinking users into hives. Jenna called. The binding birthed them. Core's husk gestates. Nexus now, Silicon Valley. The Weaver's children code the veil. We packed, dread renewed. But as the plane lifted, a passenger across the aisle met my gaze. Eyes swirling, faint. A new conductor? Or the progeny already weaving? And in my carry-on, the dagger hummed softly, hungry for the next cut. The flight to Silicon Valley felt like descending into a hive, the cabin pressurized with the buzz of laptops and whispered deals. Mark dozed fitfully, amulet clutched like a rosary, while I scrolled our channel's feed, comments a deluge of hope laced with horror. Nights clearer in NYC, but my smartwatch glitches at 3:17, logging procession steps. The progeny, as Jenna dubbed them, weren't brute shadows. They were digital specters, slipping through screens like viruses with souls. Cage's latest upload. AR filters in Tokyo overlaying antlers on selfies. Users reporting synced nightmares where they marched as the Horde. SFO's tarmac shimmered heat mirage, but the chill was internal. Jenna's contact, Elias Crow, a whistleblower engineer from a VR startup, Dreamweave Inc., irony's knife twist. He met us curbside, lanky in a hoodie emblazoned with circuit board mandalas, eyes ringed from code binges. You're the Veil Hunters? Good. My team's fracturing. His team operated from a converted warehouse in Palo Alto, servers humming like mechanical hearts, whiteboards scrawled with algorithms mimicking neural sleep patterns. Kai and Lila joined via holo call, Kai nursing tea in a sweat lodge, Lila from a Boston lab, graphs updating real-time, progeny spikes correlating with app downloads, Insomnia's gamified into viral challenges. Elias paced, gesturing wildly. Dreamweave was legit. Therapeutic VR for PTSD, dream reenactments to process trauma. But 6 months back, code anomalies, self-modifying scripts birthing echo modules. Users report shadows in headsets, processions marching virtual streets. He demoed, donning a rig, the warehouse dissolved into a neon-lit nexus, Silicon's underbelly, data streams as rivers of light, then glitches, silhouettes detaching from avatars, hooks pixelating into code that rewrote the sim. Progeny, I murmured. The screen swarmed, antlered forms converging on a central node, a digital throne, porcelain facets rendered in high res. Voices emanated, layered. Birth from husk, weave the net. Elias yanked the rig, sweating. It knows you. Pulled your channel feed, subs as potential hosts. Lila's voice crackled. Quantum entanglement. Progeny using cloud computing as rift, servers on lay faults, amplifying. Plan coalesced. Infiltrate Dreamweave's core server farm. Midnight raid during a beta test. Kai's songs digitized into audio disruptors. Lila's new device, a theta jammer to fry echo modules. Elias's access. Backdoor from his resignation. My blood, laced into a vial to anchor the dagger in the virtual. The farm loomed in an industrial park. Cooling fans exhaling cold breath. Beta testers milled outside. Tech bros, influencers, eyes glassy from preload demos. We slipped in via service duct, Elias disabling cams with a wrist hack. Inside, cathedral of racks, LEDs pulsing like bioluminescent veins. The air hummed electric, ozone sharp. Midnight, Testers synced, headsets glowing. The hum escalated, racks vibrating. Kai's audio looped through speakers, chants warping into digital reverb, making progeny flicker on monitors. Swarms birthing from code, hooks compiling into executables that hijacked cams, turning our faces into mosaic thrones. Elias jacked in, screens blooming his avatar in the Nexus. Here goes. Lila's jammer whirred remotely, pulses scrambling modules, progeny screeching in binary bursts. Mark and I flanked the central server, salts dusted over circuits, dagger ready. The birth hit. Server core flared, hologram projecting the husk, cracked porcelain womb, threads extruding progeny like spiderlings. Dozens skittered digital, leaping to physical, shadows detaching from racks, antlers scraping metal with sparks. One latched Elias's ankle. He convulsed, eyes swirling as code flooded his veins. It births through us. Mark swung the amulet chain like a flail dispersing a scout. I uncorked the vial, blood arcing onto the server, hardware sizzling, virtual nexus rippling. The dagger plunged into the core port, blade vanishing into fiber optics. Visions downloaded, the husk's gestation, core shard absorbing bindings as fertilizer, spawning adaptive progeny, not conquerors, but colonizers, weaving human tech into their realm. Temptation coded, pop-ups in my mind's eye, apps promising eternal dream share, channel monetized to infinity, network as legion. But Kai's chant peaked. Lila's jammer overloaded in a EMP bang that blacked the farm. Progeny wailed, code unraveling, hologram womb contracting, extrusions withering. The husk shattered virtual shards raining pixels. Elias slumped, purged, mumbling firewall held. Lights flickered on, alarms wailed distant. We extracted, testers blinking awake, headsets smoking. Outside, dawn broke smoggy. Elias grinned manic. Data's toast, progenies quarantined. Celebrations echoed. Channel live stream from the motel. Kai drumming victory, Lila charting decline. Global reports, app crashes, shadows fading from feeds. Our network toasted, virtual firesides, stories shared as scars. But 3:17 a.m. in the motel's hum, Mark's phone buzzed, untraceable text. Birth pangs ease, the weaver's brood scatters, but the matriarch stirs. Thread 6, matricide. Jenna's urgent call. Not progeny end, core evolved. Husk was cocoon. Matriarch emerges in the cradle city, Portland. It's coming home. Home. The word twisted. As we boarded the return flight, my reflection in the window, porcelain cracks faint, like veins under skin, and the dagger packed away wept black ichor in its sheath. Hungry, not for cut, but for kin. What if matricide demands the murder of one's own making? Portland welcomed us with a drizzle that felt like tears unshed. The airport's fluorescent hum a pale echo of the server's roar. The channel thrummed with post-raid buzz. Subs at 500K. Collabs pouring in. Our network a bona fide movement. Veil Wardens, they called it. Amulets shipped worldwide. Chants remixed into ASMR tracks that lulled rather than lured. Kai flew in for a summit. Lila, too. Our warehouse HQ buzzing with maps and manifests. Elias stayed in Cali, fortifying firewalls. But his emails carried a jitter. Glitches in the purge. Code ghosts. The matriarch. Jenna's intel painted her not as rebirth, but apotheosis. Core and progeny fused. A queen echo embodying the rift's full wrath. Cradle City. Portland. Nexus Zero under Eliza's house ruins. Reports trickled. Fog-bound figures in the Pearl District. Antlers glimpsed in craft brewery steins. Smart homes locking at 317. Whispers piping through Sonos. We prepped like generals. Salt barriers at HQ. Kai's full ritual kit. Drums, feathers, ancestral bones polished to talismans. Lila engineered the Apex Jammer. Solar flare mimic tuned to rift frequencies. My role? The matricide. Dagger as filicide blade. Blood as the lure. Mark, anchor, his loyalty thread now steel. Summit night, rain-lashed windows. Kai smudged sage, smoke curling prophecies. The matriarch births from matricide's denial. Kill the spawn, she rises vengeful. Lila's models predicted manifestation at the old house site. Bulldozed lot now a vacant scar. Weeds twisting like nascent thorns. Midnight convoy. Us in vans, network sentries posted. The lot gaped under sodium pallor. Dirt churned to mud. Fog rolled thick, swallowing streetlights. The hum? Symphonic now, a dirge swelling from earth. Kai drummed onset, rhythms sinking heartbeats. Lila's jammer primed, humming standby. We circled the lot's edge, salts cast in runes. Mark and I delved center, dagger sheathed but singing. Ground trembled, fog vortexed, birthing the matriarch. Not swarm or haze, but sovereign. Towering porcelain regalia, cracked yet regal, face a palimpsest of all threads. Eliza's resolve, Voss's intellect, infant's innocence, even my own weary gaze. Crown of antlers barbed with hooks, gown of woven shadows trailing progeny skitterlings at hems. Matricide, she intoned, voice the world's bedtime story turned dirge. Rain on roofs, code compiling, processions marching eternal. You birth me anew only to slay. Weave's end is beginning. Progeny unleashed. Hundreds. Digital physical hybrids. Some pixel glitching, others flesh antlered. Hooks lashing mud to geysers. Kai's drums faltered under assault. A skitterling coiling his leg. Draining color. Lila fired the jammer. Flares erupted. Progeny convulsing in light bursts. Code screams echoing. Mark charged a flank. Amulets flaring to shield. But a hook grazed. He staggered, eyes flickering mosaic. Alex, the thread. I slashed free, dagger-tasting ichor, visions flooding. The matriarch's apotheosis. Rift sealed not by banishment but symbiosis. Humans dreaming as one. Veils dissolved. Echo as evolution's next step. Temptation crested. Channel as oracle net. Subs as choir. Knights unified in shared vigil. Power to heal global scars. PTSD purged. Loneliness networked away. But the cost? Individual sleep forfeit. Souls procession bound. Kai rallied, bones rattling fury. Songs summoning storm. Lightning cracked, frying progeny clusters. Lila recalibrated mid-fire. Burns blistering. Flares intensifying to solar blaze. I closed on the queen. Mud-sucking boots. Blood vial shattered on blade. For the threads severed. I growled, plunging. The matriarch laughed. My laugh. Marks the world's, and impaled herself willingly, dagger sinking to hilt. Ichor gushed, burning holy. Visions peaked. Rift's core, meteor wound pulsing, matriarch is bandaged but festering. Her form fissured, progeny shrieking as threads unraveled, hooks retracting to dust. The crown toppled, antlers crumbling to porcelain shards that glittered like fallen stars. She leaned close, breath ether. Slay the mother, orphan the dream. But orphans wander, seeking new wombs. A final pulse, her essence not dissipating but dispersing. Seeds into fog, code into clouds, whispers into winds. The lot stilled, rain washed clean. Kai rose limping. Lila collapsed, triumphant. Mark pulled me up, eyes clear, thread intact. Dawn broke clear, first in months. News cycled normalcy. App glitches resolved, fog lifting global. Channel peaked, millions. Stories archived as lore. We disbanded the summit gentle, allies scattering with wards and wisdom. Months on, nights deep in sound. No hum, no swirls. Mark and I build. Collabs with survivors, a book on threads. Subscribers ask, is it over? Last night 3:17 a.m. a whisper, not hers but mine. Faint from the dream's edge. Orphans call, the weave remakes. I woke, checked the dagger, clean, silent. But the channel's new comment from an anonymous in the cradle city felt the birth. Shadows seed anew, watching from your city. What's next? The orphans wander, and in their wake, the veil thins once more, thinner perhaps for knowing. If this tale kept you from sleep, good. Subscribe, share your city in comments. Let's map the next procession together. Because some stories don't end, they echo.